Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. So we're basically one third of the way through the year here now, as we're on the last day of April here. Um, Hopefully everybody's had a good year thus far. Hopefully everybody's had a good day thus far, a good week. Of course, since it is Wednesday, that means that we're on hump day for the week. Um, we're just, give people a chance to come in here soon enough here um, before we get started. If you haven't already, of course, you can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people here to engage. That would be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions the best of my ability. As I said, we're just waiting on people to show up. Let's see now. What else can we? Yeah, so I finally got through 1936 in terms of my cartoon watching. Um, as by the end of 36, of course, then Buren and Ub Iwerks had moved on, I believe, to one of the other studios by this point. I think Columbia moved on to Columbia, I believe, and then Van Buren had just got out of the cartoon production business altogether. But basically, RKO Pictures, however, Radio Pictures would, however, eventually take over the distributing duties for Disney in 1937. We get into that. Um, by the end of 36, of course, Walt Disney now is doing shorts for Donald Duck and Pluto as well as Mickey. So, anyways, let's see now. I do need to step away from the computer for the screen for a moment, but I'll put some music on to keep you guys entertained while I'm gone. I'll be right back. All right, we're back now. So let's see now. All right. So with us being back now, why don't I go ahead and talk about what's on tap for tonight? So I've only got one article I'm going to go over tonight from Bleeding Fool, a comics related article talking about Diamond's bankruptcy and what's going on there. We've been following that story for a while. Then I'll do, of course, the wrestling wrap up, talk about what happened on last night's NXT, look ahead to tonight's AEW Dynamite. Then we'll wrap things up with This Day in Each History. So with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and, again, friendly reminder to everybody, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here we talk about grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started here. So let me pull up the article that we'll be going over tonight. Alrighty then. So, alright. So, Diamond's bankruptcy from hero to zero amid claims of potential fraud and missing paperwork. Article by Jameson Ashley published yesterday. Well, let's see now. So let's get into this. And there were, we reported on this about a week or so ago how I guess there were some problems coming up with the whole thing going on there. But let's see what's all going down here. The ongoing saga of Diamond Comic Distributors' bankruptcy took another dramatic turn this week as legal filings, failed debt, failed deals, and mounting accusations sent shockwaves through the comics and gaming industries. Late Monday night, April 28, 2025, the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in Baltimore saw a major development when Matthew W. Cheney, acting United States trustee, filed a motion to convert Diamond's Chapter 11 bankruptcy to a Chapter 7 liquidation or dismiss the case entirely. The reason: Diamond has failed to file any of the required monthly operating reports since the bankruptcy case began, with reports for January, February, and March now long overdue. In other words, the court official overseeing Diamond's bankruptcy filed an emergency request to either force the company to fully shut down or for the court cancel the bankruptcy case altogether. This is happening because Diamond apparently hasn't turned in any of its required monthly financial updates since January. These reports are crucial because they show creditors how the company is spending money during bankruptcy. The court now has to decide by late May whether to liquidate Diamond's assets, i.e., sell everything off, quote unquote, or remove bankruptcy protections entirely unless Diamond fixes the paperwork problem quickly. I almost have to wonder what Diamond's doing if they're not getting their paperwork in the way they're supposed to. As the official filing put it, quote, monthly operating reports are much more than busy work imposed upon a Chapter 11 debtor. They are the lifeblood of Chapter 11, enabling creditors to keep tabs on the debtor's post-petition operations. Failure to file them is a serious breach of the debtor's fiduciary obligations and undermines the Chapter 11 process. The court has scheduled a hearing for May 27, 2025, to decide whether to proceed with liquidation or dismissal unless Diamond can resolve the issue or parties object in the next 2 weeks. Basically, the fact is that they need this paperwork filed so everybody knows what's going on. It almost does make it seem like, if they're not filing the paperwork, it at least gives the appearance that they're not doing what they're supposed to, right? So, if the case is converted to Chapter 7, Diamond faces a quote-unquote final death, with assets sold off under less favorable terms and creditors likely to recover less. Dismissal would be even worse, stripping Diamond and its leadership of bankruptcy protections and exposing them to direct lawsuits from creditors. Founder Steve Geppi, who used other companies as collateral for a crucial loan, could see his remaining assets far more vulnerable to debt collection efforts. Meanwhile, the process of selling Diamond's assets has descended into chaos. After a months-long auction, Alliance Entertainment was initially declared the winning bidder for Diamond, Alliance game distributors, and related companies. The deal quickly unraveled in a flurry of legal action and accusations. Alliance Entertainment, after being reinstated as the buyer, following a previous dispute over Diamond's attempt to switch to a lower bid, abruptly terminated its purchase agreement on April 24th, 2025. So that was, I believe, let's see, 28th year was, so last Thursday, I believe. The reason for Alliance's exit has now come to light in a blockbuster lawsuit filed late Monday. Alliance accused Diamond and its advisors of fraud and deception regarding Diamond's relationship with Wizards of the Coast, the publisher of Magic the Gathering. According to the complaint, quote, defendants fraudulently misrepresented the status of the debtors on relationship with Wizards of the West Coast, LLC. The debtors' largest vendor, accounting for approximately 25% of the debtors' Alliance Gaming business revenue, as part of an international scheme to induce plaintiff to purchase the debtors' assets for tens of millions more than true valuation of those assets, unquote. The lawsuit alleges that Diamond knew as early as December 2024 that Wizard of the Coast would not renew its distribution agreement, which represented nearly $40 million of Alliance Game distributors' annual sales, but concealed the information from Alliance and other bidders. The truth only emerged after the sale was approved, when Alliance received an unredacted copy of the Wizards of the Coast agreement and learned of the imminent termination. Wow. The complaint details how, after the revelation, Alliance tried to salvage the deal by offering Wizards of the Coast a fixed sum and minimum purchase commitments to extend the agreement. But Wizards of the Coast declined. Alliance then sought a reduction in the purchase price to reflect the loss of the Wizards of the Coast relationship, but Diamond refused to negotiate. With no resolution in sight, Alliance issued a notice of material adverse change and terminated the agreement. The lawsuit seeks the return of Alliance's $8.5 million deposit, disgorgement of fees paid to Diamond's advisors. I imagine that means some kind of cancellation of those fees, I guess. And damages for breach of contract, fraud, and other claims. As the complaint states, quote, AENT, or Alliance Entertainment, also raised the fact after the petition date, the debtors' accounts payable had increased by approximately $16 million, inquired as to the debtors' plan for these increasing account payables, and how the debtors intended to pay them, unquote. That meeting ended without an answer, further deepening Alliance's concerns. Yeah, it does sound like some shady stuff going on there, doesn't it? Oh, hey, Metal. FYI, I am lurking, but I am also watching Gargura's Idol graduation concert at the same time. All right, well, thanks for lurking at least. And again, chime in if and when you can. I don't know how much you know or even care about the Diamond distribution situation, but chime in if you feel you have anything to contribute. Anyways, back to the article here. Let's see. In the wake of Alliance's exit, Diamond announced it is moving forward with a joint backup bid from Canadian distributor Universal Distribution and NECA WizKids parent Ad Populum. Quote, Diamond Comic Distributors has pivoted to alternative, exceptionally well-known purchasers who are excited to partner with us, unquote, said Chief Restructuring Officer Robert Gorin. Quote, these companies have strong balance sheets and, importantly, unmatched presence and experience in our core industries. We are finalizing purchase agreements with these third parties and expect to announce the identities of these purchasers and seek court approval very shortly to complete the sale transaction. Well, I mean, if you, only problem is I don't know if that thing's gonna go through or not, because with this other stuff going on with like Alliance Entertainment and all that. As the bankruptcy court prepares to decide Diamond's fate, the company's future hangs in the balance amid mounting legal battles, missing financial reports, and loss of a major vendor. The company has approximately 4 weeks to get their affairs in order, with a hearing set for late May, and creditors anxiously watching the next chapter in the Diamond saga promises to be just as turbulent as the last. Will the comic book industry ever be the same? Progress, people, progress, right? Let me see now. Alrighty then, so let's see. Oh wow, 17 minutes, huh? Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if, maybe I'll try to see if I can find at least one other possible. Oh, actually, this one might be actually a bit interesting, considering who's involved in this. Yeah, we'll look at this article up here. Oops. I don't even know why I did that, but hey, whatever. All right, so here's another article we can kind of try to take a look at here. Indie Comics' Mighty Golden Patriot is off to a ripping start. Article by Victor James, published April 29, 2005. Of course, Mighty Golden Patriot, I believe, is the comic that Yellow Flash is involved in here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, so YouTuber Yellow Flash has been around the comic book scene for years, gaining prominence during the early Comicsgate movement. His channel was among the first, along with content creators Doug Ernst, Eglantine, Eric July, your boy Zach, and later Ethan Van Sciver, among others, who called out Marvel and DC for their hard left turn. Those were the good old days. Yes, as we now know, there's quite a bit of friction within Comicsgate, particularly between Ethan and Ripa and Flash. Many of these creators went on to start their own comic series that have been wildly successful. Yellow Flash has always hinted at throwing his hat into the indie comics book scene, and that time has finally arrived with the Mighty Golden Patriot. Teaming up with the talented artist John Dillard, Yellow Flash is utilizing the fast-growing Mikestand service offered by Eric July, who has built his reputation on quality comics and fast shipment that arrives on time. So the plot for Mighty Golden Patriot here. Set during World War II, the Mighty Golden Patriot attempts to return to old school heroism without the ideology found in modern comics from the Big Two. So here's a quote. I guess here's a quote here. Quote, in 1943, amidst the brutal battles of World War II, American pilot Jack Rogers finds himself shot down in enemy territory over North Africa. Forced into a desperate struggle for survival, Jack uncovers a hidden relic in the sands of Egypt that transforms him into the Golden Patriot, a being of extraordinary power, capable of turning the tide of the war. Unquote. Quote, Jack soon encounters the sinister Shadow Reich, an elite Nazi division obsessed with harnessing occult powers. Led by the formidable Lord Blitzkrieg, this shadowy enemy seeks a powerful amulet capable of unimaginable destruction. As the Golden Patriot, Jack faces overwhelming odds and devastating revelations that could alter history itself, unquote. Quote, with gripping narrative, dynamic characters, and stunning visuals, the Golden Patriot promises an unforgettable journey into heroism, power, and the ongoing battle against darkness, unquote. The response so far to Yellow Flash's first comic has been astounding. With a lofty $100,000 pre-order goal, the Mighty Golden Patriot has already surpassed half the total in just a weekend. It's safe to say that with a July 26th end of campaign date, that it will reach fulfillment. Golden Patriot pre-order right here. $1,000 pre-order. Total sales 57,000. Yeah, 57,484. Book sold 2,054. Sales goal 57.48%. Take a look at the campaign and decide if you want to support independent comics on the Mikestand site. Here it is right here. Alright, so, and then this is, I guess, who is this guy again? Writing this article. Oh, yeah, Victor James. So, in a last bit of promotion here, Victor James states, should we get back down to it? I caved. For the first time, my debut novel, Fiasco of Adventures, is available digitally today. You can order the ebook on Amazon here or from my link tree. And check out my website, the megacosm.com, for the latest news involving this universe. Alrighty then, so there we go. That let me see what time it is here. Shall we get ready to move on? Let's see, 24. Yeah, Dillard is a good guy, deserves support. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, Dillard's a cool guy. I don't necessarily have any personal issues with him or Flash or Ethan. I don't really know Eric July, but um, you know, I think that I don't know all the details of. I think from what I understand, there's just a difference in opinion on how to run things that EVS and Flash have, and I think that's where it's all boiling down to. But that's another story for another day. So, anyways, let's see now. Time is it now? Yeah, I think. Let's see. Maybe I can get another short article in if I try. I guess depending upon what's available. Oh wait, we'll do that tomorrow. The Indie Comics Showcase. So here's an update. Here's another update to the story that we were following earlier. I think this story was just posted. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this. Diamond Comics finds new owners after bankruptcy, failed deal, and legal battles. Article by Chris Braley published today. So this I guess is an update from what we just read. So let's take a look at what this is saying now. The article we read yesterday was the article we read earlier was from yesterday. So anyways, Diamond Comic Distributors, once the dominant distributor of comic books in North America, faced major setbacks after losing exclusive deals with Marvel and DC Comics in 2020 and 2021 in response to the distributor shutting down during the COVID-19 pandemic. These losses weakened its position in the industry and led to declining revenue. In early 2024, Diamond's parent company, Geppi Family Enterprises, began selling off parts of its business to stay afloat. By January 2025, Diamond filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, aiming to restructure and find a buyer for its remaining assets. Today, a bankruptcy court approved a backup offer to buy the assets of Diamond Comic Distributors. In the deal, Canadian company Universal Distribution will take over Alliance Game Distributors. Meanwhile, Ad Populum, the parent company of NECA and WizKids, will acquire Diamond Comic Distributors, Diamond Book Distributors, Diamond Select Toys and Collectibles, Collectible Grading Authority, and other related assets. Diamond UK is not part of this sale. The sale happened after a previous deal with Alliance Entertainment Incorporated fell through due to lawsuits and accusations of fraud. Universal and Ad Populum's joint offer had been the backup bid in the auction to sell the company's assets. All three companies, Diamond, Universal, and Ad Populum, shared statements after the court approved the sale. The new owners plan to stabilize the businesses and maintain services for comic shops and publishers. Statements from all involved companies express optimism about the future. And here, I guess, is a quote from the news conference or whatever. Said a quote, "We are pleased that the court has approved Universal Ad Populum's combined bid. Our priority during this process has been to minimize disruption to publishers, retailers, our employees, and comic and games fans everywhere," unquote. Diamond Chief Restructuring Officer Robert Gorin said, quote, "We are confident that this will provide the best outcome for everyone involved." But you kind of have to wonder, they had a deal in place. Why did they screw over the other Alliance to get this deal? That's, I guess, the $1 million question right there. Yeah. Oh, anyways, as we continue on here. Quote, this expansion into the U.S. market through our acquisition of Alliance Game Distributors marks a pivotal moment for Universal Distribution. Universal Distribution President and CEO Angelo Exhakos said, quote, we're committed to building strong, transparent partnerships and ensuring that Alliance continues to serve as a reliable and resilient link in the supply chain, unquote. Quote, ever since I was young, I'll never forget walking through the front door of my neighborhood shop and spotting those iconic Diamond comic boxes, each one opening to reveal my dreams and ambitions, unquote. Had popular managing director Joel Weinshanker said, quote, we're incredibly excited to build on Diamond's remarkable legacy by bringing Ad Populam's best-in-class sales, marketing, and distribution to the next chapter, unquote. And here's I guess Chris's response to all that. That certainly was fast, following hot on the heels of the breakdown with the Alliance Entertainment transaction, which is where, as we said, as we focused on in the last article about the idea of the fraudulent claims laid out by Alliance towards Diamond, where maybe they were trying to play him or something like that. Alliance Entertainment initially agreed to purchase. Oh wait. Did I? Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Alliance Entertainment initially agreed to purchase Diamond and its related companies, but the deal collapsed amid lawsuits and fraud allegations between the parties. This led the court to consider a backup bid submitted earlier by Universal Distribution and Ad Populum. Universal, a Canadian distributor, would take over Alliance Game Distributors, while Ad Populum would acquire Diamond's main assets, including its comic book and collectibles divisions. The transaction is still pending, and as we know, there's also a court hearing coming up at the end of the month as well. So, again, everything's still pretty fluid there, to say the least. All right, so with all that being said now, I think we'll move on to the wrestling wrap up. As we'll look back to last night's NXT, look ahead to tonight's AEW, as of course WWE is setting up for the Backlash pay-per-view, while AEW is working towards their Double or Nothing pay-per-view. So let's see. Let's first off look back to last night's NXT. Look back to last night's NXT. As the opening match on the show saw Ricky Saints retain the NXT North American title over Lexis King, the former Heritage Cup champion. In a battle of two former AEW stars, as Ricky Saints, of course, under his real name Ricky Starks, and Lexis King under his real name Brian Pillman Jr. Both wrestled for AEW, but now Ricky Saints had retained the NXT North American title in a non-title match. Women's North American champion and WWE Speed champion Sol Ruca fended off the challenger Carmen Petrovich. Of course, Sol Ruca had Zarya in her corner, while Carmen Petrovic had Ashante Adonis in her corner. In a match for the NXT Tag Team titles, Hank and Tank Ledger and Hank Walker, defeated the team of Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura. The main event saw WWE Women's World Champion Io Sky team up with Jordan Grace, defeat two former NXT champions tagging together in Julia and Roxanne Perez. So, as it was acknowledged on last night's or on Monday, it was acknowledged Monday that Julia and Roxanne Perez were both promoted to the main roster. So this might be one of their last appearances for NXT for quite some time. So with that being said, now of course, now let's get ready to move ahead to looking ahead to tonight's AEW AEW Dynamite. There's quite a bit going on tonight, as of course we're just a few weeks away from Double or Nothing, which will have the finals of both finals of the men's and women's Owen Hart Foundation tournaments, in which the winners will get a shot at their respective world titles. Men getting a shot at the men's world title currently held by Jon Moxley, and the women getting the women's winner getting a shot at the current women's world champion of Toni Storm for AEW. Let's see now. So yeah. All right. So on tonight's Dynamite, coming from the Chatway Arena in Norfolk, Virginia, with Excalibur 10 and Tony Schiavone on commentary. In an 8-man tag team match, international champion Kenny Omega teams with the Jet Kevin Knight, Mark Briscoe, and Mike Bailey to take on the elite members of Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada, EVPs of the Young Bucks of Matthew Nicholas Jackson and Ricochet. In another women's world title eliminator match, Toni Storm answers the challenge of Miyu Yamashita from Japan. And for those of you who don't know, an eliminator match in AEW terms is basically, as a challenger, Yamashita can defeat Toni Storm in this eliminator match, and she'll earn a shot at a title shot at a later date. So, and in the men's second semifinal, Hangman Adam Page is set to take on the Don Callis family, Kyle Fletcher, with the winner meeting Will Ospreay in the finals of the men's Owen Hart tournament at Double or Nothing. So that's what we know of, at least right now. I'll be waiting for more. I'll have of course the results of that tomorrow night. Results of tonight's AEW Dynamite tomorrow night, and then on tomorrow's show we'll probably, on the Wrestling Wrap-Up, we'll look at tonight's results from Dynamite and look ahead to tomorrow night's Ring of Honor and TNA action. With that also being said, of course, let's now get ready to move on to this day in Niche history, as today is, of course, the last day of April, Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. So let's take a look back at this day in Niche history. So let me see here. 1985, 2000, and 1965. All right. So the first thing we're going to do here, of course, want to wish a happy 60th birthday to actor Adrian Pastar. Let's see, American actor Adrian Pastar. We're wishing him a happy 60th birthday. He's in recent years he's provided the voices of Iron Man in some of the more recent Marvel animated series, including Avengers Assemble, Ultimate Spider-Man, Hulk, and the Agents of Smash. Also provided the voice of Hawkeye in the superhero squad show, and he was also Micronus Prime in I guess the latest version of Transformers: Robots in Disguise. So happy 60th birthday to American actor Adrian Pastar. Turned 60 today. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Now, moving ahead to the year 1985, which was 40 years ago today. On this date, 40 years ago today, in 1985, the 25th issue of Alpha Flight went on sale on this date back in 1985. Of course, the book featuring the Canadian government superhero team that Wolverine was once a part of. The story is, and graves give up their dead. Written penciled by John L. Byrne, inked by Bob Volchek. Volchek. Let's see, lettered by Rick L. Parker, and Andy Yankus did the coloring. That happened 40 years ago. And now moving ahead to the year 2000. On this date, 25 years ago today, in the year 2000. Year 2000 here. From the MCI Center in Washington, D.C., WWE held its Backlash pay-per-view. Of course, the pay-per-view immediately after WrestleMania. The main event saw The Rock with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Linda McMahon defeat Triple H with Vince McMahon Triple H with Vince McMahon and Stephanie McMahon to win the WWF Championship with Shane McMahon as special guest referee. Chris Benoit retained the Intercontinental title over Chris Jericho. Eddie Guerrero retained the European Championship over S.A. Rios. Let's see. Crash Holly defeated the Hardy Boys of Matt and Jeff Hardy. His cousin Hardcore Holly, Perry Saturn, and Taz in a 6-man hardcore match to retain the WWF Hardcore Champion. Dean Malenko retained the Light Heavyweight Championship over Scotty 2 Hotty. The show opened up with Edge and Christian defeating X-Pac and Road Dogg of D-Generation X to retain the WWF Tag Team titles. So there we go with that. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Let's see. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow night with more Niche News, of course. And of course, this Sunday, I'll have RJ Carter joining me for the historical comic retrospect. We'll be looking back to May of 1940, continuing our look down comics history lane as we take another trip back to May of 1940 for we'll be taking a look at books that went on sale from Fiction House in May of 1940. So with that, I will go ahead and bid you all adieu for the night and see you back here tomorrow. Well, tomorrow night, I believe we will be doing another indie comic showcase. We'll going over that article from in full. As I said, we'll be getting caught up on all the latest and wrestling news and wrestling wrap up, and I'll have more niche news or niche history for you for May 1st. We will probably have some stuff for May 1st ready then. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.